What's up, everybody? I'm gonna make sure everything is working. Is the live chat working? I think it might have been an issue with that. So today we're gonna be breaking down the brackets and going along with that. I'm gonna make sure my mic's working. Yep, it sounds good. So, how's everybody doing today? Today we're going to be breaking down the brackets here as the OHSAA released the 2019-2020 high school basketball tournament brackets. We'll be breaking down all the Dayton teams as well as some Cincinnati teams because they are in the Dayton teams brackets as well. So I guess let's get right into it. We're starting off in Division 1 as we move on to that. Division 1 in the Cincinnati bracket, Cincinnati 1. As you can see, Lakota East will be taking on Kings. The winner of that will play Northwest. Obviously, none of those games will really matter that much. I think the two biggest teams there, or I guess the three biggest teams you need to watch out for Dayton teams are Elder, Turpin, and Lakota East. All three of those teams are pretty good, and I think those could be pretty big opponents for Dayton teams coming down the line. But obviously, is everything working with the chat? I'm not sure if the chat's working, but moving down to this Dayton bracket, as you can see, Springfield takes on Butler. I think that'll be a pretty good matchup. Springfield is obviously a really good GWalk team. Butler, a good MVL team, or decent MVL team that I think can definitely make a pretty decent run. Tyler Montague is a really good guard for them. And they have some other good players and pieces that I think that's going to be a really good game. I might attend that game. I'll definitely put on my story what games I am attending, but I'm not 100% sure as of right now. The winner of that plays Xenia, who has struggled mightily this season. And I'm not sure why they give all the schools that have worse seeds. They always give them the buys for some reason. Pilco plays West Carrollton. I think that'll be a pretty easy win for West Carrollton. And then Lebanon plays Beaver Creek, which I think could be a decent matchup, but I think also could be a blowout win for Beaver Creek. But obviously Lebanon's not a bad team either. I think that'll be a pretty decent matchup for those two teams. Moving down to the next bracket, as you can see, we have Division 1. Again, another Cincinnati bracket. At the top, you have Tecumseh taking on Centerville. I think that'll be a pretty easy win for Centerville, a nice little warm-up. And then they play Fairborn, which will be another easy warm-up game for them. Troy and Carroll, I think that'll be a really interesting matchup. I think those two teams match up pretty well against each other. And I think that'll be a good game. Try to attend that possibly as well. We got Wayne and Northmont. I think that'll be a pretty good, nice win for Wayne. I think that they'll roll past Northmont. Northmont struggled this season. And then the winner of that, I think Wayne is going to have a tough time against either Carroll or Troy. I think it'll be a good game either way because Wayne usually doesn't blow teams out. They usually play with them pretty closely. But Wayne's a really good team this season for the GWalk. Moving on to the bottom part of that bracket, as you can see some Cincinnati schools. You got Princeton taking on Talawanda. Winton Woods plays the winner of that. And then Lakota West, Loveland, and Mason. Mason's a good team, I believe. But I'm not sure about all the other schools. I'm not really that familiar with Cincinnati basketball. Moving on to the last Division I bracket that we have today. As you can see, this is actually posted on the Miami Valley HoopVault website, which the link to that is in the description of the Instagram bio. So you can see Little Miami takes on Moeller. That'll be a blowout win for Moeller, and then Moeller will run through Coleraine and probably everybody else in that side of the Cincinnati bracket. So Little Moeller will likely be playing at Xavier in the Cintas Center against I don't know who. This is going to be a really, really competitive bracket on this side. As you can see, you got Miamisburg and Belmont taking on each other. Miamisburg, I'm not sure how strong of a team they are. I currently have them number 1 in the power rankings, but that will change because they did lose to Springboro, who they possibly could play if they do defeat Belmont. Belmont's a really good team, or not a really good team, but I think Belmont's a solid team this year. They have some good freshmen in Antoine Allen and Randy Latham. Also, they have Sean Phillips, the big man, and Logan Moore, who's a good point guard as well for them. I think Belmont's definitely a team that a lot of people will sleep on in the tournament. I think that they can make a run. If they can get past Miamisburg, I think they'll shape up well against Springboro. Springboro is obviously led by William Yates and Noah Moser. Some pretty good players there, and Sam Feldman. Sydney and Fairmont, I think that could be one of the most intriguing games of the entire tournament. Fairmont obviously doesn't have the greatest record, but I think that their record is not even close to how talented they are. They're a really young team, obviously, with a lot of sophomores. And Sydney has some decent seniors in Darren Taborn. Avante Martin's a good player on that team as well. And I think that'll be a really good matchup. I will definitely try to make it out to that game. Franklin and Stebbins, another good matchup there. Franklin, I saw them play a couple weeks ago against Springboro. They're a really nice team. They'll be taking on Stebbins, who I think is pretty good as well. Stebbins forces a lot of turnovers. They don't necessarily have a lot of guys that can make a lot of threes, but they force a lot of turnovers and score in transition pretty easily. Making sure everything is going right. We have 19 viewers on here currently. I don't think the chat is working. Not sure why the chat isn't working. Let me try to fix that real quick. I'm not sure what's going on with the chat. We got 20 people in here. Can anybody try to comment? I don't think it's working right now. Yeah, the chat is not working. I'm not sure what's going on. This whole YouTube live thing I'm not really that good with right now. I'll try to get better at it, though. I'm not sure why the chat is not working, but we'll get back to that. We'll move on to the Division II bracket now, as this is on my website that I'm just going through currently. So the first bracket we'll go through on Division II is Cincinnati side again. We start off with Kenton Ridge and Northridge, sorry. Northridge, I saw them play last night against Oakwood. I think Northridge is a pretty decent team. I think they made a lot of turnovers last night, which caused them to lose to Oakwood, and they just weren't really hitting their shots. But I think that'll be a pretty good matchup. Kenton Ridge obviously led by the Charleston commit, and I think that's going to be a good game right there. The winner of that plays Bellbrook, who I think is also a pretty good team, and I think that'll be a really good matchup. Tyler Eberhardt obviously will lead Kenton Ridge, and I think he's a really good player for Kenton Ridge. I haven't seen them play currently this season. I may try to attend that game. It's at Springfield. I'm not 100% sure, like I said before, what all games I'll be attending. But the winner of that will play Bellbrook, who's a pretty young team as well, but they definitely have some size. Gabe Pavlik, a really good player. Ulster taking on Northwestern. I haven't seen Northwestern play, but according to the record, I don't know how great they are. I think Ulster should be able to win that game. And then Ponitz and Urbana. I like Ponitz as a team. I think they're a pretty solid team. I think they could have a chance to win that game. I'm not sure. I have no idea what the level of competition that'll be there for Urbana. I have no idea how good Urbana is. But I think Ponitz is a solid team. I think they have a good guard. And Davion Purdue, and then David Jordan, a good big man as well. They have some good freshman pieces as well. They're a pretty decent team. Moving down the bracket, there are a bunch of Cincinnati teams down here. Roger Bacon and Baden. Obviously, I cover both those schools because they're in the GCL co-ed. Baden, a good team. I saw them play Bellbrook earlier this season. They have some really nice players, and I think Baden definitely has a chance to make a deep tournament run. I think Wyoming in that bracket. I think Wyoming will win in that bracket. They're a really solid team. Obviously, they have Evan Prater, I believe is his name. He was Mr. Ohio for football. He's committed to Cincinnati to play quarterback next season, and he's going to be a really nice player, and I think he's going to be really good in the tournament as well. Moving down a little bit, as you can see, Norwood and Hughes taking on each other. The winner of that will play Clinton Massey. Obviously, some Cincinnati schools there again. Not too familiar with all those schools. Hughes, I did see Hughes play Fairmont at Flying to the Hoop the last game of Flying to the Hoop. So, wait, let me try the chat again. Because nothing's popping up on there. I think it might just be on my end. Yeah, the chat's working. All right. All right. So Ross and Richmond, I'm not too familiar with those schools either. Fenwick and Blanchester, I have seen Fenwick play. They have A.J. Braun, who's a really talented big guy who I think has a lot of potential. And I would like to see him progress throughout his career. I think he's going to be really good. On the other side of the bracket, you got Tippecanoe and CJ. That's going to be a pretty intriguing matchup. Nolan Mader and Ben Knosman versus Brandon Gibson and Dan Nassif and Larry Turner. I think that'll be a really good matchup there. CJ's a really talented team, but their point guard, A.J. Solomon, I have heard, is out for the season, which is a devastating loss for them, but they still are a good team. I saw them play at Flying to the Hoop without him. They still played really well against Gable Montessori, and the winner of that will take on Oakwood. Darren Rubin and Will Maxwell, two extremely talented players. There's almost 30 people in here. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Oakwood, a really talented team. I saw them play last night. I think they are going to make a deep tournament run as well. I'm not sure why they have a bye, because it's not like they have a bad record or anything. It's just kind of random, it seems like, who they selected byes with. But moving down, Thurgood and Greenville. That'll be a blowout win for Thurgood, I believe. Greenville's definitely improved from last season. They had 0 wins last year. I believe they're up to 5 wins right now. Thurgood, a decent team, or not a decent team, a really good team. I believe in Thurgood. Anthony McComb, Makai Elmore, some good guards there. And Chance Emerson and Prophet Johnson. I think they'll make a deep tournament run. I'd like to see them play CJ or Oakwood at that Springfield. I think that'll be a good matchup there. Because I'd like to see Thurgood match up against a team like CJ. We saw that game earlier in the season. I went to that. It was a pretty good finish. Brandon Gibson got a late steal, which won them the game, and then Makai Elmore missed the 3 to win. A really fun finish there at Thurgood High School or at Thurgood Marshall. And then Valley View and Springfield Shawnee. I've not seen Springfield Shawnee play, but I did see Valley View play. I can't really judge what I saw because they played pretty poorly. They had a lot of turnovers. I don't think that's how Valley View is because they have some wins over teams that I've seen that played a lot better than what I saw. So I think Valley View just had a bad game in the game I went to. But I'm not sure how good Springfield Shawnee is either. Moving down to the next D2 bracket that we have. Some Cincinnati schools at the top. McNick taking on Bethel Tate. Monroe playing Taylor. Purcell Marion, Wood and Woodward. That'll be a really good matchup. Purcell Marion, I believe, is pretty good this season. Woodward with Paul McMillan. That's going to be a really good game. So Paul McMillan play Walnut Ridge at Flying to the Hoop. Coaches vote on seeds, and coaches pick where they want to go. So first seeds pick first, and so on. Usually teams want to play right away, so it's not 2 weeks before they play again. Okay, so coaches can decide if they want to bye week or not, or bye or not. That's interesting. I knew coaches decided on the seeds. I wasn't sure how the rest of that worked. Graham taking on Trotwood Madison. I think Trotwood's going to blow through that entire side. Dunbar back in the tournament after their couple, I believe, 2 or 3 year absence. So Dunbar back in that tournament. I'm not sure how the matchup against Waynesville. I have not seen Dunbar play. They did just get blown out by Meadowdale, but I know they definitely have some talented players on that team. Waynesville, a pretty decent SWBL team. And then Eaton, they get the bye. Eaton, not that great of a team this year, I believe, according to the record. And then Bell Fountain, I have no idea what their talent level is either. So that D2 bracket is really good right there with Trotwood and McNick. I think that could be the final right there. Possibly Trotwood and Woodward maybe. I don't know. That's going to be a really fun bracket to see how that plays out. I would like to see a Trotwood Dunbar maybe at Trent Arena on February 28th right there. That would be a fun game, obviously. But moving on to Division 3 now. As this loads, this will be at Northmont High School. As you can see, Clayton, Ohio is the host there. So Versailles gets the bye. They'll be taking on Carlisle. Versailles on February 22nd. Versailles and Carlisle, that'll be kind of an interesting matchup. I've not seen Carlisle play. Well, I saw them scrimmage over the summer, but I don't know how much of their team was actually there or not. Versailles, I saw them play a couple weeks ago. They're extremely well coached, and they have a lot of discipline. Michael Stammen, one of the best guards in the MAC, if not the best player in the MAC overall. And I think it's hard to go into the tournament undefeated, so I think that loss to Anna definitely is going to teach Versailles a lot about who they are. And I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. Greenon taking on Indian Lake. I don't believe Indian Lake has that much talent. I don't think they have a good of a record. So Greenon and Versailles, possibly a matchup there on February 29th in the district semis. And then moving down, I don't really know much about any of these teams because they're all Cincinnati schools. So it should be interesting who Versailles plays, or I assume Versailles wins all these games. It should be interesting who they play in the district final at Northmont, assuming that they do win those 2 games. Last year, Versailles, I believe, played Reading in the district final at Northmont. Reading is a school in Cincinnati. I'm not sure who they'll play this year. I saw Gamble Montessori play at Flying to the Hoop. They played CJ. They weren't that great of a team. I already went through the Division 1 brackets. I'm going through D3 right now. I can go through D1 again if you guys want me to because I know there weren't as many people in there. So moving down a little bit, as you can see, the second side of the Division 3 bracket. Greenview will be taking on Dayton Christian. I believe Will Homan is still not playing for Dayton Christian. I believe he tore his ACL, I think, at the start of the season. So that's a big loss for them. Greenview, they just beat Cedarville, which was a big win for them to possibly or take advantage of the first place of the OHC South. So Greenview, I believe, can win the OHC South with a win in their next 2 conference games. The winner of that plays Preble Shawnee, who is a lot better than their record. They've played pretty well in the SWBL this season, which is a very tough conference. It's a lot more difficult than in past seasons. Northeastern is going to be taking on Stivers. That is not Northeastern in Springfield, I believe. It's a different Northeastern, and I believe in Cincinnati. They'll be taking on Stivers, though. And there's some Cincinnati schools down there. Taft is in that bracket, so possible Taft-Stivers matchup late in the season could be interesting. Then moving down to the Vandalia side in the Division 3. As you can see, it's Houston and Middletown-Madison. That'll be an easy win for Middletown-Madison. They have Grant Wisman, who's one of the more talented players in the Dayton area. He's committed to Cedarville University. Him and Colby Cross should make a pretty nice duo next year there. The winner of that will be taking on Mechanicsburg, which again should be a nice win for Madison. And then that'll be a nice warm-up for the winner of Arcanum and Milton Union. Arcanum has Carter Gray, who's a pretty talented player. He's a over 1,000-point scorer. And I saw Milton Union play a couple weeks ago against Madison. So a rematch there, possibly in the district semifinal, would be interesting. Milton Union's really talented. They have Nathan Broombaugh and Blake Broombaugh. I believe Blake is a freshman, and he's averaging about 15 points a game. And then Nathan is a senior. He's averaging about 10 points a game. So in the bottom side, Reading are taking on Deer Park. Deer Park has a pretty decent team this season. I'm not sure if they still have a guy from last season. I saw them play against Stivers. I forget his name. Mark Wise. I'm not sure if they have Mark Wise this season. Where's Dayton Christian? What city? Dayton Christian, I believe, is in Miamisburg. I'm pretty sure. But Reading taking on Deer Park. The winner of that will play Seven Hills. And then I believe that Northeastern, maybe that's a school in Springfield. I'm not 100% sure. The one that plays Stivers, I think, is maybe the one in Dayton. So moving down a little bit to the second Vandalia bracket, as you can see, Anna taking on Triad. Anna's one of the best D3 teams this season. They actually beat Stivers last season, I believe, in the district finals, or maybe no, in the district or in the regional semifinals. They beat Stivers. I know Dayton, but what schools are they near? Um, they're in the conference with like Yellow Springs and Middletown Christian and all them, and Troy Christian. So Anna plays Triad. Triad kind of a weak record in the OHC, and then the winner of that plays Dixie. Dixie a weak record in the SWBL. And then the winner of Benjamin, Logan, and Meadowdale. I'm not 100% sure what Benjamin Logan's looking like this season. I saw they did lose to Northridge, one of the first games of the season. Meadowdale, an up-and-down City League team. They're kind of inconsistent, but they do have some talent on that side. I think Anna may be able to blow through that all the way to the district semifinals, maybe all the way to the district finals, where they would play teams like West Liberty Salem. Go through the bracket and pick who you think or how you think it'll play out. I'll do that again. West Liberty Salem and Bethel. I think West Liberty Salem will take care of business there. Actually, I'm not 100% sure there. Bethel's a decent team as well. They have some nice wins, but also some tough losses. So, I don't know. Brookville, pretty good team. Should be interesting to see a team like Brookville match up against kind of more of a country school like Bethel and West Liberty Salem. In the Miami East and National Trail. National Trail, the winners of the cross-country conference. They beat Mississinawa Valley on Friday night. I wish I would have been able to go to that game, but I was already going to Wayne Centerville. And then Miami East. I think Miami East is maybe third in the CCC right now, maybe fourth. I know they have a pretty decent record. I believe they're like a game or two over 500 right now. And that wraps up Division 3. So moving on to D4, and after this we'll go back to Division 1, and I'll talk more in depth about those games. So the first bracket in Division 4, these are all Cincinnati schools, so I don't really know much about them. But then moving down to the Dayton side, as you can see, Lehman Catholic taking on Mississinawa Valley. Mississinawa Valley has a pretty strong team this season, as I think they'll be able to beat Lehman Catholic. And then they'll be taking on Fort Laramie. Fort Laramie is a really good team. They only lost to Versailles by, I believe, 1 point. And I think Mississinawa Valley and Fort Laramie, that'll be a decent game, or a really good game, actually, for Division 4 on February 25th at Piqua High School. I will try to make that game. And then Newton and Botkins. Botkins has a pretty nice record. I think they'll be able to blow through Newton pretty easily. And then they take on Riverside, which I'm not 100% sure. I usually see Riverside losing to certain Dayton teams, so I'm not 100% sure how great they are. So I think Botkins should be able to take care of business. So it could be a Botkins and then either Mississinawa Valley or Fort Laramie matchup in the district semifinals. The next bracket in Division 4, as you can see, you got Cedarville and Yellow Springs. Yellow Springs, I don't believe they've won a game this season. Cedarville's a really talented team. They were a last-second shot away from winning, or not winning, but blocking up the OHC South title. And they'll be taking on Yellow Springs. I think they'll be able to blow through them. Twin Valley South, they have a pretty bad record this season, and they've struggled at times this season, so I believe they'll be able to blow through them. And then Southeastern, Tri-County North, Franklin, Monroe, and Jefferson. All those teams are pretty weak. I think Cedarville can make it to the district semifinals with ease. I think Tri-County North's a pretty decent team. Dylan Stenson is their star player. He's had a good season so far, but they don't have that great of a record, and they've lost a lot of games against teams that are similar to Cedarville. So I think they're going to struggle against Cedarville, and I think Cedarville will have an easy way to the district semis. And then in the bottom part, you can see Jackson Center, a really good D4 team this season. They have I believe only 3 losses on the entire year. They'll be taking on Bradford, who only has a couple wins, and then Russia, who only has a couple wins as well, a fellow Shelby County Athletic League opponent in Russia, and then Fairlawn, another Shelby County Athletic League opponent, taking on Covington, who's a CCC school. And then in the bottom, you have Ansonia taking on Troy Christian. So I think Troy Christian will beat Ansonia, but that'll be a really close game as well. I believe Ansonia has some nice wins as well. And then Fairlawn and Covington. I think Covington can take care of business there. I believe those two teams actually played each other a couple days ago, if I'm not mistaken. And that'll be a pretty decent matchup in the district semifinals. So, I mean, Jackson Center and Cedarville, that'll be a nice matchup in the district finals at Butler High School. I definitely will try to make that game as well. Moving down to the next and last Division 4 bracket. After this, we'll go back to Division 1, and I'll talk about those schools more in depth. But as you can see from there, Legacy Christian taking on East Dayton Christian. Don't know too much about either of those schools. Emmanuel Christian, my partner Matt Bowen, he saw them play. Who did they play? I can't remember who they played, but he did see them play and got some video of them. Here, I'll look it up real quick. They played Legacy Christian. Okay, so they did play Legacy Christian, so he saw them play. He was not able to attend this, but that could be a rematch of that game. I believe they won by 20 in that one. Tri-Village and Catholic Central. Springfield Catholic Central doesn't have the greatest record this season, but I think Tri-Village is a decent team, pretty good team in D4. I think they'll be able to win that game and the game against Miami Valley. And then the bottom teams are all Cincinnati schools. So let's head back to Division 1, as we'll go in more in depth about the bracket in Division 1. Starting off in the Cincinnati, the first one. As you can see, Springfield and Butler. That'll be a really close matchup. Obviously, you guys got guys like Josh Tolliver and Larry Stevens on the Springfield side, and then Butler has Tyler Montague, Quincy Rackley, Quentin Hall, Cooper Justice. They got some really nice three-point shooters, and from what I've seen, Butler lives and dies off of the three ball. I saw them play, I believe, 2 times. I saw them play against Troy, and they were not making any shots. Troy beat them by, I believe, 20. But then Tyler Montague dropped a career-high 35 points against Troy the second time they played, only a couple weeks ago. And that was a really good game for him as they blew out Troy. Or didn't blow out Troy, I believe they won by like 8. So I think it could be an intriguing matchup. My personal opinion, I think I do have Springfield winning this, but it's going to be a really close game. Springfield, I've only seen them play against some really tough opponents. I saw them play against Spire with Raheem Moss. Obviously, you can't really judge a school like that against a prep school. And then I also saw them play against Centerville, which is one of the top teams in the Dayton area. The winner of that will play Xenia. Xenia, like I said before, not that strong of a team. I think they'll be able to win that really easily. And then below that, you got Pickwood and West Carrollton. West Carrollton's got Kalen McKinney, Stanley Shrivers, and Jaiton Howard. I think that's a really solid squad. The game I saw them play against Sydney, I believe, was not their best game. And I think Kalen McKinney had a really off night. So I think with Kalen McKinney and Stanley Shrivers playing their best basketball, they're going to be really hard to beat. But Chris Hervort and the Beaver Creek Beavers are also a really good team. Obviously, Yusuf Saleh, Adam Duvall. That's a really solid team right there in Beaver Creek. They have people over 6'6", and Gabe Phillips and Adam Duvall. Both of them are sophomores. That is a really solid team in Beaver Creek, and they're going to be hard to beat the next couple of seasons. Obviously, they graduate some really nice seniors after this season. Some really good players in Chris Hervort and Yusuf Saleh. Some leaders on their team, which will be hard to replace. But I see Beaver Creek making a deep tournament run. I think the trip to the district semifinals is going to be pretty easy for them. Obviously, that West Carrollton game, or not easy for them, but pretty seeable for them. That West Carrollton game is going to be really difficult for them. I think that'll be a really good matchup against them. Adam Duvall versus Kalen McKinney going head-to-head. I think it'll be a good matchup there. And then Beaver Creek against Lebanon. I have not seen Lebanon play. I might actually see them play tomorrow against Northmont. I'm not 100% sure where I'm going tomorrow, though. Or not tomorrow, on Tuesday. But I'll be sure to let everybody know on my story. So Beaver Creek, I could see them making it all the way to the district semis. Elder beat Beaver Creek only a couple weeks ago. So an Elder Beaver Creek matchup in the district finals could be interesting. Lakota East, obviously extremely talented. They have some really good players, some D1 caliber players. All those games are at Lakota West. All the games below are at Butler, except for that Springfield-Butler game, which is at Centerville on February 21st, which is a Friday, I believe. And then the district finals for that is at the Cintas Center, which is located at Xavier University. So the next bracket in Division I, you got Tecumseh and Centerville. Tecumseh is a team that loves to shoot the 3-ball. That's pretty much all they do. Centerville, a team, I wouldn't really say they have a defined characteristic. Without Mo Njai, I think it's going to be difficult for Centerville to compete late in the tournament, but I think they'll be able to win some games pretty easily against Tecumseh and Fairborn. Both those teams were pretty weak this season. I'm not 100% sure what Tecumseh's record is, but I know Fairborn is 1-19, 1-20, somewhere around there. So they have a pretty bad record. Centerville, I believe, will be able to run through both those teams pretty easily. Carroll and Troy will match up very well. Carroll's led by, I actually saw them play one of the first games of the entire season. And I like Carroll. I thought they were a pretty good team. They have a pretty nice team as well. Troy's a pretty nice team as well, led by Trey Archie, Shaden Olden, Jaden Owens. Pretty good team. As I saw them, they beat Butler by 20 when I saw them play, and then they barely lost to Stebbins on a floater that just did not fall at the very end. Carroll's led by Jaden Dom, who's a big man for them. Isaac Arrowwood is a good three-point shooter. They have a pretty nice team as well. And I think the Carroll Patriots will be able to run with Troy. I think that should be an interesting matchup. I don't believe Carroll and Troy played each other last season, but I believe that was a matchup that, I think Troy played Springfield and then Carroll played Springfield or Sydney or somebody, but they were all in that same bracket last year in the Butler tournament as well. Wayne taking on Northmont. I think Wayne will destroy Northmont personally. I'll see Northmont possibly play tomorrow night. I'm not 100% sure, like I said before, where I'm going. But a possible Wayne and Troy / Carroll matchup will be interesting there. I think Wayne and Centerville in the district semifinals will be a really good game. Wayne has beaten them the past 2 times, so Centerville coming in with some new momentum. Obviously, if they're not playing without Mo Njai, I'm not 100% sure what his injury status is right now. He wasn't dressed. Northmont will upset Wayne. Change my mind. I don't know. Northmont honestly isn't like a horrible team, but like their record is pretty bad. People look at them because they lost by 90 to Trotwood and say that they're not going to win any games, but I mean they did bounce back pretty nicely. I believe they only lost to Springboro by 8. So I mean that's not horrible. Springboro's a pretty good team. Wayne Centerville possible matchup in the district semifinals will be interesting. Like I said before, I don't know what Mo Njai's injury status will be. I'm not sure if he'll be back for that game. If he is, I think that'll be a really nice matchup. Elijah Brown's developed really well this season for Wayne. He's a lot better than he was the first time Wayne played Centerville, so Elijah Brown versus Mo will be a nice matchup there. Moving down the second side of that bracket, it's some more Cincinnati teams. Not sure. I don't know a lot about either of those schools. So Mason may be the favorite there because Mason's just really big. That's the only reason why I would say that. I'm not sure anything else. I know Winton Woods has struggled so far this season. So I believe that any team on the Dayton side could possibly win that. I think Centerville and Wayne is better than those Cincinnati schools. Moving on down the other side of the Division I bracket, Cincinnati 4, Little Miami and Moeller. I think Moeller will destroy Little Miami. They only have one win on the season. And they'll be taking on Coleraine, another weak team. I think Moeller will run through them pretty easily. Edgewood takes on Harrison. Don't know too much about either of those teams. Goshen takes on Western Hills. Don't know too much about those teams either. Miamisburg and Belmont. Miamisburg's a good team. Belmont's a good team. Belmont, like I said before, led by freshman Antoine Allen and Randy Latham. I saw them play just a couple nights ago against Stivers. Harry Fisher got the game-winning shot with 1 second left. It was an and one, and then they sent him to the line, and he won the game for Belmont. A big win there against Stivers. And then they won against Summit Country Day just a couple days ago as well. Miamisburg, I have not seen them play so far this season, but they're currently led by sophomore Anthony Kopic, who's averaging about 10 points a game, Colin Murphy, and then Alex Ball. I believe they're a pretty young team from what I've seen. Colin Murphy is a senior from what this says, and then Alex Ball is a junior. And then I believe Anthony Kopic's a sophomore. Yeah, he is. So Miamisburg is a pretty decent team. So, I mean, if their best player is a sophomore, then obviously they don't have a lot of experience on their varsity roster. So, I can't really judge some of their losses. They did lose to Carroll early in the season. But it should be a mass matchup there. And then the winner of that takes on Springboro. Springboro led by Noah Moser and Willian Yates. Both those players are really good. Sam Feldman, a nice big man for them. Fairmont versus Sydney. Yeah, Fairmont versus Sydney, the next game right there. That'll be a really good matchup. Darren Taborn taking on Anthony Johnson, Desan Doucette, Malachi Parker, Caleb Hall, and the Fairmont Firebirds. I think that's going to be a really nice matchup there. Those two teams are almost identical to each other. I think if Sydney played in the GWAC, they'd have not a similar record to Fairmont, but a pretty similar record to Fairmont. Fairmont's just a couple games below 500 currently. But if they played in the MVL, I think they would be undefeated right now or close to it. They're just so young, and I don't think they're prepared for as hard of a schedule as they have in the GWAC. But they have a lot of talent, and they will be really good in the next 2 seasons. They have one of the best 2022 classes that there is, one of the best sophomore classes in the entire Dayton area. My personal opinion, I have to go with Fairmont in this one. Darren Taborn's a really good player. If they can just lock him up. Sydney definitely has some other pieces around him. Avante Martin and Taborn's little brother as well. So, it's not official. I don't think Fairmont is going to run away with that game in any way. I think that'll be a really close game. I think that could be one of the best games of the entire tournament, Sydney and Fairmont matching up, or at least one of the best sectional semifinal games you will see. Franklin taking on Stebbins. Jalen Tolbert and Stebbins has had a really good season. Stebbins typically in the past hasn't been the greatest at basketball, so it's nice to see them have a nice season so far this year. They were a couple games away from really winning that MVL valued title. I think they could have done it, but it's too late now. Obviously, they have just too many losses. Franklin, a good team as well, led by Mount Vernon Nazarene commit Will Emmerich and Zach Minton, also led by Caden Johnson and Noah Rich. Pretty decent team there in Franklin. I think they should be able to have a nice game against Stebbins, an MVL versus SWVL matchup, which is nice to see matchups like that, which you won't really see during the regular season. So that'll wrap up my coverage of the tournament. If you guys would like to see any of these brackets or updated brackets throughout the tournament, you can check my website. The link is always in the bio of the Instagram page. Thank you guys so much for watching this. We have about 12 people on here currently, but we had, I believe, 25 people was the maximum people in here at one point. So thank you guys again for watching and tuning into this show. If you guys did watch the entire thing, I do appreciate it. We will be live tomorrow with a recap show, recapping the past week with top plays and everything else that we had last week, except I'll be having my mic on the entire time this time. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.